So I played and beat Star Fox for the Nintendo Switch 2. Shout out to Nintendo for sending me over a code. This game means a lot to me, man. Me and my dad used to play this a lot when he was alive. It's one of the first games he really introduced me to back on the N64. And got a lot to say on this game. But without any further ado, this is my review on Star Fox 2 for the Nintendo Switch 2. The original Star Fox 64 is one of those games I grew up playing over and over again. It was one of those games where you finished it and immediately wanted to do another run, see a different path, maybe get the endings that's in the game. I do know that they have a score system. I particularly never cared about the score system, but I know a lot of people like to try to beat their old score. So going into this remake, I was honestly hoping Nintendo doesn't overthink it too much. Sometimes I feel like developers try to modernize everything, end up changing the reason people love the original game in the first place. Now, I'm not talking about, adding new content or anything, because I do have some criticism on that. I'm mainly talking about just the way the game feels and plays in general. That's what I was mainly worried about. Now, with that being said, I'm happy to say that Nintendo got this one right. It feels like the Star Fox 64 I remember, just with modern visuals, a way better presentation, and a lot more personality. Now, I do have a couple things I would have liked to see Nintendo do differently, and we'll get to that later. One thing I really love the way Nintendo immediately handled this game is that they didn't try to reinvent Star Fox. They knew exactly what people wanted. They wanted those fast missions, those multiple routes, big boss fights, great music. This is the Star Fox I remember. And I feel like that classic conversation between the teams while you're flying, that is what made Star Fox back in the day. And I ended up putting around 6 to 7 hours into it. I made sure I went through every route. I wanted to see at least every stage, and I wanted to see the actual endings. There's 2 endings to this game, and fight every boss. Because if I'm going to review this game, I want to experience everything it had, because I know it's not going to be a very long game. And honestly, I had a lot of fun playing this. I think there's something that we forget sometimes. Not every game has to be completely changing the industry or redefining the genre. That's another big thing people always be saying. At the core of gaming experiences, I feel like fun is not part of the equation as much anymore. Sometimes it's enough just to be fun. And this game is fun. One thing I forgot up until I started playing again is how much personality this crew has. Falco is still Falco, that I'm better than you, Star Fox kind of thing. He's always trying to show everybody he's the best pilot, including Star Fox. He's always talking trash. And, he's Star Fox's rival throughout the entire game, even though you're on the same team. Peppy's still giving advice throughout missions. They've always related this character to your dad. And Slippy, well, Slippy's still Slippy. But one thing I always thought was cool is that every team in this game, they actually matter. If Slippy gets shot down, you lose information during fights. You don't get those health bars on bosses. And it's always funny because you don't really realize how useful he is until he is gone. Then suddenly you're fighting bosses blind, and that can be a little bit frustrating sometimes. The attention to detail, I like how they did that. Now, I will say I would have loved for have Peppy and Falco have their own little gimmick in the game. They didn't have it in the original one, if I remember correctly, but since we're modernizing the game to a degree, let's some other stuff that pop up. I think that would have been cool. Something you could add on to it. I was honestly surprised on how well the gameplay has aged. Flying still feels great. The controls are very responsive. I don't feel like it feels clunky or anything like that. Combat is simple enough. You got your main laser, you got your upgrades, you got your bombs, you got your gold and silver rings to get health, where the silver rings give you health, the gold rings extend your health. But there's still enough depth there that if you're trying to get better scores or unlock different routes, that's one thing you can do. And I always love that Star Fox is that decisions actually matter. You don't just get to fly through the same game every single time. Depending on what you do during certain missions, you'll unlock different paths. You'll actually fight different bosses. Sometimes scenarios will happen that will lead you to different planets. And I think that's one of the reasons I replayed this game so much growing up. And a lot of the reason it is too, and I'm sure a lot of the older demographic that's watching this too, it's one of the only games I had for a while growing up. Now you guys know I talk about boss fights a lot in this game. Boss fights are extremely important to me, and gonna be honest, they did it exactly the way I remembered. Some of them are huge, some of them require you to figure out their weak points, and some of them are just absolute fun and chaos, and I loved it. I also thought the cutscenes did a really good job adding more personality to every mission. Back on the N64, there was only so much they could do, technical limits, the hardware in general. Now they have way more technology to make these moments feel bigger. And I think it added a lot of character and charisma to all the people. The story isn't just the main reason you're here, because I actually cared about these extra scenes. Now, normally this isn't something that's going to grab me immediately, but I will admit, when I played these scenes leveled up the gameplay and made it feel like there was more here to lose. Now, I will say in terms of the bosses, they all look good. I didn't really see any issues in terms of how they handled stuff. There were certain phrases that I felt like certain characters would normally say. You got stuff like Star Wolf. You got the main characters. Mainly the time, every stage is going to have its own boss. And that was good. I felt like they did a really good job when it comes to that. Now let's talk about the way this game looks. I actually think they did a really good job. The environments look great. The ships look great. The explosions look great. Even the underwater sections. I'm not the biggest fan of underwater gameplay in general, but I really enjoyed this one. The Landmaster tank sections, where they were just as fun as I remembered. Everything just felt polished in this game. Now, I will say, I'm still not completely sold on Fox's character model. I understand the direction they went. They're leaning more into making everyone look like actual animals, and I get that. I'm not going to act like I don't understand the concept that Nintendo was giving out here. But after watching that recent Super Mario Brothers movie, I couldn't help but see that Nintendo shown that they can modernize these characters and still keep some of that classic charm with them. Fox just doesn't completely click for me visually. It wasn't enough to hurt the experience, because most of the time he's in a ship, you ain't really going to be worrying about that. But it was one of those things that I kept noticing that was like, man, he looked wild. And I think a lot of that has to do because I just seen that Mario movie. I'm very curious if I could go back and stop myself from seeing that experience. Would I care this much about how Star Fox looks in this game? And maybe you guys put in the comment section below if I'm just tripping. Maybe Addict just a little bit nitpicking too much. But even though it did bother me, I wouldn't say it was enough to make me stop playing the game. Because, like I said, you see a cutscene, you see Star Fox talking, and then bam, you're in a ship. Or, you're in the Landmaster. Like, it's not really a huge issue, but I'm very curious to why Nintendo did what they did with the movie compared to what we're seeing in this one. Now, if I had one complaint, it's honestly that I wanted more. And I feel like that's a really good criticism. I know that's weird to some people, because this is supposed to be a faithful remake. And like I said earlier, I just wanted them to maintain what it feels like to play Star Fox. Did not mean I was against them adding more coverage and adding more content to this game. But I know most people exactly wanted what we got, a 1-to-1 remake. And for that, I will say Nintendo definitely delivered. But after finishing every route, getting both endings, I even played a couple of the multiplayer. I couldn't stop thinking about what comes next. Because I honestly think this remake proves that there's still some energy. There's still some in the tank when it comes to Star Fox. And I would just love to see Nintendo take this foundation and build a brand new game. You can keep the flying, the on rails, the multiple routes, that team dynamic. Just make something bigger, because I think Star Fox and I think the fans deserve that. Now, I will say, I would have liked just to add maybe a mission or two, have something that goes into where it's like, this is the base game, this is what you remember, and this is what we remember. And we wanted to make sure you got every bit that you played on that N64. But we're going to also have some other stuff going on. Now, these are maybe it won't be new complete stages, maybe another ending or something. I did feel like the biggest criticism I can give for this game is I just wanted them to take what I experienced in the N64, modernize it, and just give me a little bit more fresh stuff to play with it. Now, the multiplayer, to a degree, I do know that they've done that in the past, but I will say that is somewhat new, not entirely. I didn't really play the multiplayer stuff back in the old days on Star Fox. And I will say the couple matches I did play of the multiplayer are fun. It was nothing like massively special or anything like that. But what I will say is I enjoyed what I did play of it. Now, I do feel like there's a foundation there for that multiplayer. And if Nintendo wanted to, they could keep building on that. And I think they could actually make something extremely unique and fun. And it is unique to a degree. I don't think really anything does what Star Fox does. And that's one of the biggest things that, I'm very nervous because Nintendo has been very, up and down on what franchises they care about other franchises. We'll get like 6 Marios to like 1 Metroid, or like 8 Marios, 10 Marios to 1 Star Fox. So that's why, I'm pushing back a little bit when it comes to the newer content, because I don't know the next time we're going to get a Star Fox game. I will say, because Star Fox is in their Mario universe, they're probably going to be a little bit more incentivized to like breathe more life into the Star Fox franchise, because they have some invested interest in something else when it comes to just gaming, because they're going to want to capitalize on that. And I think that's good. But I'm going to be honest, man, like at the end of the day, I walked away from this game smiling. It reminded me why I loved the N64 so much growing up. This gameplay definitely holds up, and I've never been a huge fan of like on-rail shooters, and a lot of it might be nostalgia. I even said at the beginning, I can't help that some nostalgia will come into play when it comes to Star Fox. And a lot of it is this is one of the games that me and my dad played a lot, and rest in peace. And there's a lot of nostalgia goes into this, but I think it's a good game regardless of the nostalgia or not. The multiple paths are still fun to replay. The bosses are still a great sight to see. I feel like the team still has energy on this. And honestly, sometimes that's enough. Not every remake needs to invent the wheel. Sometimes all it needs to do is just remind people of the original concept of gaming in general. And I think Nintendo accomplished that here and really everywhere. Nintendo always, in my opinion, has fun factor as the middle and center of all of their games. And hopefully this isn't the end. And I think that's the biggest thing that gets me is like, as much as I love this game and I love it, a lot of me just worried that when's the next time I'm gonna get another Starfield, because I didn't mind the GameCube games. I thought they were fun games. But I will say, if I were someone that Nintendo would listen to, I would want them to build off the foundation of this game. And you could go a little bit more towards the GameCube games, but let's build this foundation out and let's make a new Star Fox game. I would have liked a little bit more content in this game because I'm nervous I ain't gonna get a game in a while. But I'm willing to give Nintendo the benefit of the doubt that they're gonna give that to me. And I think you guys will enjoy this game. I really do. Definitely gonna have gameplay throughout this, and if they ever give me another Star Fox, you're gonna have to sign me up. I'm there day one. So yeah, that was my review, man. Look, I loved this game, and I'll be real, a lot of it's nostalgia. They had me, man. They had me with nostalgia, from something I used to play with my dad a lot to just something I remember so vividly playing back then. I even played it probably like a year and a half ago. I believe it's on the Nintendo Switch store. I even played it back then. It was something that I really wanted to jump back into, and playing it now with these modern style just makes me really hope that Nintendo got me with something. I would really love for them to take this concept and roll with it some more, and give me a newer, a new experience when it comes to Star Fox, especially since they got the Star Fox in the new universe and stuff. They have so much that they can really captivate when it comes to this, where you elevate the characters that's in it, and you put Star Wolf, and there's so much you could do. And I really want Nintendo to just give Star Fox more of a chance. We got this remake. It looks like it's selling well. on the Nintendo store. It's the top selling thing on the Nintendo Switch 2 store. So just give us more of an opportunity to show you that this game can be nurtured and make you money if you just give us good Star Fox games. But yeah, that's it for the review on Star Fox. Really appreciate everyone coming through. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like button as always. Appreciate you. Can always sub to the channel. We review games on here damn near weekly this time, man. I'm reviewing 2 games right now. I don't know if I'm allowed to tell you what they are. But definitely sub to the channel if you want to see those games. And that was the review on Star Fox for the Nintendo Switch 2. Peace.